Hey guys, this is Chris, and this is my second episode of Tales of Redemption. I'm filming this for our YouTube, so I won't be looking at the camera the whole time. I'll be looking at my computer as I am filming or recording for my podcast. That being said, I actually am going to put this episode still in the first episode of Tales of Redemption because it's not too long, and I found this later, and I do think that it's going to be a great addition to what I had said previously. So this will be a second episode on our YouTube of Tales of Redemption. Now, I found this story on Reddit. This is Renee at Bethel Girls Academy, and this was published Sunday, January 27th, 2013. And this is called Tales from a Black School. Now, forgive me, the grammar in here is not the best, so I'm going to try and get my way through it just by reading this girl's word-for-word account because I think that that's imperative to the story. So bear with me as I try and get this out there appropriately. Hello, my name is Renee Newsom. I attended a school in Bethel, Mississippi called Bethel Girls Academy. I was there for 10 months. The program is now shut down, and it was shut down by the DHS in Mississippi in February of 2005. I was there when they shut down, and to a point I was saddened because I knew that I needed help, but this place only made my situation worse by far. I didn't have the greatest childhood. I didn't have a real mom or dad. Things happened to me, and I was abused and severely neglected. My real dad was in prison, so he had no choice but to sign his rights off to the government. My great-grandmother spent a lot of money to bring me out of my mom's side of the family to bring me into my dad's side. Problem is that I was very young. I only knew sex and violence. I didn't have a foundation set for me as a youngster. My first 3 out of 5 years were complete hell. And when my aunt tried to make things right, it didn't help due to the fact that I was being severely spoiled. We tried many different public schools. My social skills were lacking big time. I would pick fights. I didn't care about anything unless it was myself. And I was about 4 years old, and things started to happen on my dad's side of the family, and it did not stop until I was placed into the Bethel Girls Academy. I started to tell close family members and friends what was going on. And when my aunt caught word of it, she didn't believe me, and she flat out called me a liar. She tried to seek counseling for me to have my truth covered by lies. Well, I quit going to these sessions, and I decided that suicide was my best option. I tried twice, and I failed. The night the transporters came to take me to the school, I had taken around 30 sequel that night, hence the beginning of my hellish journey. I was woken up in the middle of the night. I was very drowsy, and I really didn't care where I was going as long as I was getting away from Michigan. I went willingly. I had a man and a woman for transporters. They were actually very nice to me, but never did I expect what lied ahead 10 hours later. We made it down this long dirt road, and I seen this building with a pool in front. I knew this place seemed like a prison, and I wasn't even inside yet. As soon as I walked in the doors, I was greeted by Herman Fountain Jr. He led me to his office and asked me why I was there, and I said because I was violent and my grandfather had sexually abused me, and then again he flat out called me a liar. I knew then that we would never see eye to eye while I was there. I had to take my clothes off and put on used uniforms that the program had. A higher level schoolgirl was in charge of me. I was in orientation the whole time I was there. I refused to be programmed like most of the girls there. School was a joke by far, and the schooling program that they had there wasn't even accredited by real schools. I learned this when I went to another program and I had to retake up grades 10 and 12. Now, level 1 girls had to ask permission to speak, permission to talk, permission to go to the bathroom, permission to even write. If you failed to ask permission, you would have to endure endless hours of military-style exercising, bends and thrusts, male push-ups, pull-ups, duck walks, bear crawls, squats, keeping your hands straight out, staying in this position many minutes, to the point that you were going to fall over. One day, I was just minding my own business, and a girl called me a whore. I called her a bitch, and next thing I remember, I had 15 girls on top of me beating me. Staff were rooting them on as I fought my way out. I cussed and I screamed even at the staff, and I fought with a female staff worker. Nothing can compare to what Mr. Fountain would have me do. I had to wake up at 3 a.m., go outside with a spoon, and dig a hole in the ground until 8 p.m. at night. I told him, "You can do whatever you want to me, but I will not break for you or anyone else." Soon after I tried running from the program, U.S. soldiers and staff came after me and tackled me to the ground, and they said, "We're going to make you exercise every demon in and out of you." This was my breaking point to say fuck off to all of you and this hell. 15 hours of pure exercising in hell. At this point, I was inviting demons in me. At least it would give me the energy to endure all this hell. Mr. Fountain himself came in that day 15 hours later, took me to the orientation room and asked me if I was still going to run. I said if given the opportunity again, hell yes, I would run. Too bad I didn't try and run again. I had to stand in the corner for 10 hours for days. Endless hours of running around in a circle outside. Some girls passed out. Some girls were denied medical care, such as their asthma breathing machine, before and in the middle of the running. They had to endure bear crawls and duck walks. Water was something that you had to earn. 5 miles of running, you either got water. 5 miles of running got you water. 2 miles of bear crawls got you water. 3 miles of duck walks got you water. Otherwise, you suffered and passed out. More than once, girls would pass out and ice cold water would be thrown on them and they would have to keep running. This happened to me as well. The third time was a charm and they had to take me to the hospital for a heat stroke and being severely dehydrated. I was in the hospital for 20 hours, give or take a few on that, but at least I got 4 days vacation from exercising. And honestly, that's when things started to look up. I was getting in less trouble and started to do my program. So for the next week or two, I was in a small room with only a tape player. No food, no shower for those days either. I had to listen to Herman Fountain's dad his preaching tapes from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. There was a small cabinet in there and I was so hungry that I went through it and found instant coffee and flavored creamer. I'll tell you what, dried coffee and creamer never tasted so good in my life before this. Now, one day we were in a pool having a good old time in the water. All of us a little saddened, but I didn't feel good anyway. And I knew that this feeling from being home and being stung by yellow jackets and sweat bees. I went inside, hardly able to breathe, and I said, I need to go to the hospital right away. But no one listened to me. After about 45 minutes, I could feel that I was starting to slip away and I had hives covering my body. I was swollen. I looked like I was a balloon. A higher level girl had to help me undress just to get into dry clothes, and it took this place an hour to make sure I wasn't lying about being deathly allergic to bees. We finally made it to the hospital. I was taken straight to the ER. Doctors came in and told me that if I had waited another 5 minutes, I would have died. I was in the hospital again for 24 hours. I was on a special medicine for 2 weeks for the hives and the swollenness. My exercising was limited to not very much. I was placed in a room for the rest of the days until the program shut down. Only myself and no one else was allowed in my room. Finally, I got what I wanted. We were forced to go to church every Sunday morning. We would stay in the church all day long until after Sunday night service. Some girls would sleep on the benches while some girls had to exercise for a while for anything out of line. And I remember one time a girl was sent to the program for looking at the boys. Herman Fountain Sr. at the altar told the staff to take her to the back and have her exercise the remaining of the service. Well, she had 3 seizures that day. She was taken to the hospital and never returned to the hellhole. Her parents came to Bethel and they filed a lawsuit against Bethel, but I do not know how far they actually got with that. Soon before Bethel shut down, a girl came into the program. She was 15 and pregnant. Mr. Fountain forced her to have an abortion. She came back to the program sickly, and after our meal and shower time, 3 men came to take her to the Tranquility Bay in Jamaica, and I never heard from that girl again. There was a major staph infection outbreak in that place. Sanitation-wise, I'm surprised that other infections weren't caused. No one had proper medical treatment, so this shit was spreading from one girl to the next like wildfire. Luckily, I stayed my distance away from these girls, so I did get a skin condition called hidradenitis suppurativa. I have no idea how to pronounce that. It's a major acne infection and severe conditions causes MRSA infection, which I have had. Girls would get bronchitis, severe colds. All that was given was home remedies, no doctors. Basically, stuck it through and still had to do excessive exercising in summer, winter, spring, and fall. I was threatened with Tranquility Bay by Mr. Fountain. I told him my aunt would never allow it. He said, we'll see about that. 15 minutes later, he came back and he said that I was right. I proceeded to say, even you can't break me. He said, I'm going to send Sergeant Knox to speak with you from the boys' home. So this short man with a pissy attitude worse than a rattlesnake's attitude screamed and spit on me, either get with the program or he was going to make me sweat blood, and I could not stop until the walls would sweat blood with me. Mr. Fountain told him to give me an example. Sergeant Knox made me roll in the mud outside and come inside and exercise until my legs gave out. 2 hours later, he said, if he gets called back here, I'll be transported to Tranquility Bay. I said, I already told you that my aunt won't allow it. Try and get ahead of your luck. Either way, I can't and I won't be broken by you or anyone else. Sergeant Knox looked at me and said, you've been here 10 months and not much has changed with you. He said, I guess you're right. You're never going to change. Some people might as well give up on you and throw the keys away. He said, I was asking to be molested by my grandfather and that I was a whore and a slut and not even meds could help that. Mr. Fountain always called the girls freak shows, whores, or whatever he felt like. He also had the upper level girls punish the lower levels, hitting, punching, kicking, spitting, whatever the upper level girls wanted to do to the lower level, but they were just trying to survive themselves. These girls were trained to be violent, but some were against it, and that's why the girls started to riot and the hellhole was shut down. Our parents had 24 hours to get us out of there or we would be under Mississippi Child Care Services. A lot of girls were severely injured by the staff. The program had about 3 months before it shut down, and Mr. Fountain had hired a so-called therapist to come and talk to the girls each week. Well, after about 3 weeks, I noticed a lot of the girls were really flirtatious with him. My suspicion was heightened, but I didn't say anything until one day a girl came to my isolated room and said, can I talk to you? I said, sure thing, what's wrong? She started crying. She said that this man, I forgot his name, had touched her in a sexual manner. I said, have you told Mr. Fountain? She said, no. No sooner than she said no, I heard Mr. Fountain coming down the hall in the dorms. I said, this girl is saying that some man touched her in a sexual manner. About 6 girls came forward and said the same thing. He looked speechless. I said, is there a camera in the office? And he said, no. I said, I might be stupid in your eyes, but you may want to get a camera in that room to see if this shit is true. The very next day, he got a camera installed in that room and come to find out the girls were telling the truth. The man was fired as far as I know, but no charges were ever pressed against him. What I and many other girls went through was insane and crazy. Some girls would get caught taking care of their sexual urges when they thought no one was looking, and staff would be called and the girls forced by military personnel to work out that urge through hellish exercising and scripture from the Bible being forced down their throat for how wrong it was to do this. We were called disgusting, sluts, whores, and many other names. Almost everything was a crime in that place, and it was all under military. I felt like I was going through boot camp. Then getting the help I needed wasn't important to them to be successful in life. They should have let us give a damn trophy for doing the exercise and the links that adults would do in basic training. It was all about the money and not what the child needed. I admit I needed the help. To a point, this place was under the WWASPS, meaning Worldwide Association of School and Specialty Programs. But they do not care what happens to you. Your family, as long as you live in pain, then that's what makes you happy. This organization is a fucking living nightmare. Please avoid sending any child to a WWASPS program. Do your research first. Save your child from a world of suffering and pain and not being able to be in the real world. If you are a WWASPS survivor, you can contact me personally. She gives her phone number and email, and I will link those in the show notes, and I will help you get through and give you advice. Again, my name is Renee Newsom, and I approve this letter.